Good evening. How are you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of last week's news. Last week's Torah portion was huge. Probably, definitely the most. Well, I don't know. I can't say definitely, but other than Avram Avinu, Abraham, making a covenant with God and basically being the first person to find God, like the real God, the one and only God of Israel. Besides that, and creation itself, last week's Torah portion, Toldot. Let's Genesis 25 through 28, roughly. 25:19 through 28:9. It's it's hard to describe um, how like pivotal a point in not just in the Torah but in the world, which is going to be impossible for someone to understand if they think they came from a monkey or they don't believe in God. But if you really want to understand and you toil for it, God will show you the truth, and He will let you understand. Eventually, He's going to make everyone understand that's still alive, but that's really gonna suck to go through for everyone that is alive. But this this uh, this Torah portion, I didn't realize what Torah portions were when I started reading this section of the Torah like a couple of years ago. I I was still infested with a huge dose of Amalekites, and not just like the gematria, like Safek doubt, like doubt, not just doubting God, but like the evil ramifications of doubt and disbelief in God, and the like ascribing everything to chance and randomness. That's like one of the underlying traits of Amalek, is just everything just happens. There's just it's a coincidence. It's a coincidence that all these horrible things keep happening to the Jews. And any time the Goyim try to thrash on them past a certain point, some really horrible things happen to those Goyim also. That's just all a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that the like smallest, or the seemingly smallest anyway, seemingly smallest nation of peoples just won't get gone by the Goyim. Somehow They always survive. Just a coincidence. It has nothing to do with this book that God gave to the world, called the Torah. But once I finally accepted that, there was some truth there, I started toiling for it, and I told someone else that when I read Genesis 25 and at that point I already knew that there was like horrible stuff going on in the world. There was like a massive conflict, and if the Jews didn't follow the Torah, there was going to be another Holocaust. I didn't know that it was like predicted in the Torah, but I just knew like in my heart that it was going to happen. But I was still massively infected by like horribly flawed character traits and like disgusting desires and hate and like jealousy and envy and pretty much every other horrible flawed character trait a person could have. So the truth that I saw in the Torah, I didn't take it well. So I see that's the thing that's so dangerous about the Satan, the Yetzer, the devil, Satan. Evil is that he will, God shows us a little corner of the truth sometimes, and if we don't like work really hard to try to see and understand everything about it and minimize ourselves as much as we possibly can, Satan takes all our horrible desires and like all the demons that we've created from our horrible sins we've committed, and he basically just lets loose, and he lets us run with that little piece of truth, but he like just sticks his hands in the one half of our heart that's not that great and twists and gets us to still do absolutely horrible things. Thank God for God's mercy and giving me the guidance and the strength to work through as much as I have to get to this point. It certainly hasn't been easy, but it's well worthwhile. Can't understate, can't overstate that enough. How worthwhile. Not that I want to go through any more uncomfortable situations, but it's worth it. But let's get to the Torah portion itself. Genesis 25:21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord entreated of him, and Rivkah his wife conceived. See, this is the translation I've been using for the last 9 months, give or take, because it seemed like the most accurate that I could find on Sefaria. And I need to find an online source for the stone edition of the Chumash, because this is not accurate. Once I read it, I thought, hey, where's the missing word here? It says, entreated the Lord for his wife. So then I figured maybe I can go to the Rashi commentary and he will clarify. And sure enough, there's a missing word that he says, but in the English translation of the Rashi, it says facing his wife. He stood in one corner and prayed, while she stood in the other corner and prayed. And Rabbi Reuben, reads from the stone edition of the Chumash, the Art Scroll edition, which is the finally Baruch Hashem, praise God. Someone finally, God finally sent me someone to give me some motivation. Sure to link with me to get the Chumash. Yesterday was this, or last week was second. I got it last Friday, but the Friday before. It's been I read 2 Torah portions so far with it. Chaye Sarah and Toldo. It's a really good. I'd be a fool if I said it wasn't, because one, Rabbi Reuben uses it, and I'm trying to make him my rabbi. It's not easy, but that's not his fault. That's my own fault. But in the stone edition of the Chumash, it says, and Yitzhak entreated the Lord opposite his wife, which is like basically what Rashi says in his description without the facing his wife, because he says he stood in one corner and prayed, while she stood in the other corner and prayed, that's opposite, not facing. Because as far as I can see, it doesn't say panim or like nothing about face. Like I think it says lenokach, or however that's pronounced. Opposite his wife. Rebecca, Isaac's wife, just like all the other matriarchs, was barren. They all had to pray. They all had to pray to God for a miracle to have kids. Yeah, that's another just random coincidence that, the Jews aren't even supposed to exist at all, according to like rational thought. Like every turn and every like from the very beginning, like 3 generations of barren women, miraculously had children. And then all the other things throughout history that occurred where any other nation would have been utterly destroyed and left to the dustbin of history. But because Israel is God's chosen nation, they're still here. I know, for most people, especially, or at least for most goyim, or anyone that had any background similar to what mine was, it's going to be really hard to, accept that for what it is, along with, the rest of the Torah portion, which even, just gets more hard to stomach, depending on how much of an Edomite you are. 25, Genesis 25:22. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. The commentary says she went to the yeshiva of Shem, the son of Noah, who was still alive. Shem and Shem's son, or Noah's son Shem, and his son or grandson Ever, both had yeshivot like schools where they taught the oral Torah. Most people would say, well, how could they have the oral Torah? And it's kind of ridiculous to even say anything like that, or to to conceive of such a ridiculous concept that there could, that there wouldn't be an oral Torah, an oral tradition of, everything else is not in the Torah. It's like, and then the Jews were a nation that records like everything. And before there was parchment and ink, they had to record everything in a certain way and pass down the teachings. And there's an endless amount of stuff that gets passed down orally and never gets written down. At least not until recently, when paper became more prevalent. But and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. This is a really interesting verse because it doesn't say which people shall be stronger than the other people. It says one people. And it says the elder shall serve the younger. On a Sage's comment on both of those lines in the verse where they know that God doesn't mince words, and he's not overly vague when it comes to most things. And there's certain wording that is used for a very specific reason. And they say, the one people shall be stronger than the other people, is Edom and Israel will never be at the height of their power at the same time. When one is strong, the other shall be weak, and vice versa. Like when the first Bed Hamikdash was built and functioning, none of the other nations had any real power. They were all subservient to Israel. They all came and offered sacrifices at the temple. But then when enough of the Bnei Israel went off the derek and started worshiping idols and lusting after goyim and goyot, then God sent his prophets, and they tried to rebuke them, and it worked for a while, but then it didn't. So God had to give Edom the reins of the world, and then they destroyed the temple. So you say the one way to know who is Edom is anytime there's a mighty nation that has a military victory, that's basically a signpost of Edom, descendant of Esau. So like definitely the Greeks and the Romans. I'm not sure how it applies to some of the Arab nations or countries. There's only really two nations now. There's not Israel and the 70 nations. It's like Israel and the one nation of mudmen. Because everything got so mixed up after so much time. Everyone's interbred, so there's no real like outright nation of Edom anymore. There's only character traits, but things kind of all coalesce in one place at one time. And for certain, it was certainly Rome and the church, the Roman Catholic Church. And then it was Germany. And now it's America. The other coincidence is all those nations all had the eagle as their like patron animal, or whatever you want to call it. And the elder shall serve the younger. Some of the sages say that Yaakov was conceived first in the womb, but Esau was born first, and that's why he was clutching his heel as they were born. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. The sages say, commentary on this verse 25:25. Rashi says the only reason for the Torah to call him, mention the fact that he's red was his murderous nature. And there's other commentary that I read in the Stone edition of the Chumash that says David Amalek, King David, was also ruddy, and Samuel the prophet feared this might indicate a tendency toward bloodshed, but God reassured him, saying that David had beautiful eyes, from 1 Samuel 16:12, meaning he would only kill on a ruling from the Sanhedrin, the Jewish, or it's like the High Court or like Supreme Court when before the exile happened, where Esau would kill whenever the mood suited him. All character traits, even the basest, can be used for good or for evil. Man must harness his nature for good and not let his nature harness him, which Esau certainly did not do the best in that one. I mean, if a person just skims over the Torah, it's and all you know is like Jews are Yaakov and Esau is like all the Europeans or whatever, and you don't read it like with a real intent to look at what's being said and like every word and every letter to find out what the truth is. It's real easy to let the inner Amalek take over and just rage at what you see. I'm sure it's probably similar for Ishmael as well. But you saw the truth, every single letter. Best thing is to accept it and not become a wicked person. Or if we are wicked, do teshuvah, return to God, and resolve to build a fence and not sin again. And the Torah says, and they called his name Esau. Where when Yaakov was born, it says, and after that came out his brother, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Yaakov. See, this isn't even that great a translation now. Now that I read the Chumash, it says, and he called his name Jacob. And the commentary says, either God told Isaac to name him Yaakov, or Isaac named him Yaakov on his own. Whereas it says they called his name Esau. And the commentary says, who is they? It's like everyone there was like commenting on how it came out looking whole, kind of weird, like red and hairy. And as the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Yaakov was a plain man dwelling in tents. I generally, what the Torah calls someone a cunning hunter is not, like I mentioned a few days ago, is not a good sign. Nimrod was a hunter. Let's say Esau killed Nimrod and stole a garment from him that somehow, I forget how, eventually ended up with Yosef Tzaddik, Joseph the Righteous, one of I think it's Yaakov's youngest son. But Esau sold his birthright for a pot of beans. What a fool. The really pathetic thing is Esau sells his birthright because he didn't want it in the first place. The commentary says Yaakov told him what the birthright was to entail, like all the details of the sacrificial service in the Mishkan, or of the firstborn that would sacrifice animals on the altar to God. And later on, like in the Mishkan and the temple when it was built, like how everything had to be absolutely perfect on Yom Kippur, otherwise they'd have to find another Kohen Gadol, because if the Kohen Gadol went in on Yom Kippur and wasn't like 100% pure, if he had one thought for a fraction of a moment in his mind that was not completely holy and pure and thinking about nothing but God, like if he just thought for one moment like of a woman's leg or her hair or anything of the sort, God would just consume him with fire and he'd be toast, and they'd have to find a new Kohen Gadol, a new high priest. So Esau said, what use is this birthright if it's going to kill me? So he traded it for some lentil soup. And the Torah doesn't at least not here, not in the 5 books of Moses, doesn't really call Esau wicked outright plainly, because it's one, it's up for us to see that for ourselves. We're supposed to delve into it and understand how his actions were. But later on, when he basically says that Yaakov stole his birthright, when that's a lie. He didn't steal it. Esau sold his birthright, and worse than that, he didn't even want it in the first place. I mean, obviously, he sold it for the equivalent of what would now be about $3 worth of lentils. So obviously not that valuable to him. But yeah, Yaakov gave him a piece of bread to go with it too, just to be, just to make sure that the deal was extra fair. Then Yaakov gave Esau bread and a pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised the birthright. And that's the other interesting thing. It never calls it his birthright. It calls it the birthright. The Torah, at least from the translations that I've been reading, I don't know Hebrew well enough, but my guess would be the Torah never said Esau's birthright. It just says the birthright. But this portion has a lot of good stuff. I know no one's probably here, but hold on for whoever's not here. I'll be right back. Okay, where were we? Esau spurned his birthright, or the birthright. Esau spurned the birthright. Then there was a famine in the land, and Isaac, Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistine, to Gerar, and the Lord said to him, "Go not down into Mitzrayim, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee. For to thee and to thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham thy father. And I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and will give to thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. That last verse, 26:5, It's got a lot of information. Because if it was just like one thing, like because Abraham obeyed God, it would just say like because he obeyed my voice, or it would just say one thing, but it says five. I think five. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, five things. Obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. My commentary is pretty detailed on that. The gift of the land is attributed to Abraham's loyalty in obeying the word of God. The verse speaks of 4 categories of commandments. Okay, yeah. Obey God's voice plus the 4 categories of commandments. My safeguards. Rashi explains as follows. My safeguards are the rabbinic enactments to serve as a fence against violating a Torah prohibition. My commandments are the common sense moral laws, like the Noahide laws, which are a lot more than 7. Maybe one day we can have them enumerated so they're clear. Until then, we have to work for it. My decrees, laws that reason cannot explain, royal decrees that God enacts on his subjects. Laws like the red heifer and I was going to say laws of Nidah, but that's or purity and impurity. Maybe that's a more general topic that's more accurate. Those really don't make a lot of sense, like rationally. Family purity laws do make some, does make some sense on a certain aspect for like for continual marital bliss and good good marital relations, but my Torahs, and that's what it says. It's I'll have to look at what the Hebrew word is. Statute, my laws. Betorotai, which is plural. My Torahs, and that's pretty obvious. The written and the oral teachings, the written in the oral Torah. The latter includes rules and interpretations given to Moshe at Sinai. Things like how to make tefillin, which is not included in the written Torah. I mean, it doesn't even say what it is. It just says like bind it upon your head and upon your hand and upon your head, or between your eyes. But the laws of the halakot of tefillin, there's like over 1,000 halakot, like over 1,000 laws for how the tefillin are to be made, and like all the steps. So there's absolutely no way possible at all to observe the written law without the oral law. So if you're one of those people that disbelieves the rabbis, or thinks they're just fanatic extremists that made stuff up, you gotta do your own research. Whatever line of garbage you were fed is a line of garbage. Probably by some heretic or idol worshiper, or both. The commentary on the start of chapter 27 in the Stone edition of the Art Scroll Chumash says, receiving the blessings, one of the most crucial and mystifying chapters in the Torah, the fate of two nations and course of good versus evil in the world. I'm not sure if I have the energy or time to go over all this, but I think the blessings are probably some of the most important. One in 27:28, I think is where Yitzhak blesses Yaakov. Autocorrect screwed up one word, I think, here. So I'm not. The commentary says, and may God give you the word used for God is referencing God's role as a dispenser of justice, not mercy. Oh, given, that's what it's supposed to be, not chives. Signifying that Yitzhak had given this blessing to Yaakov conditionally only if Yaakov and his descendants were worthy of it. But to Esau he gave the blessing unconditionally, even if they weren't worthy of it. That's like a summarization of Rashi's commentary following the Midrash. The other way you can tell Esau is not really that great of a guy, let alone a son, is the way when the difference in how Esau and Yaakov talk to Yitzhak when he's on his deathbed, and they both bring him food to eat. Esau just tells his father to get up and eat, where Yaakov says, please, Father. I can't find the I'm not sure if I'll be able to find the verse, or if I can remember, but when there's I think this is the beginning of chapter 27. The way that Yaakov gets the blessing, like, looks really dishonest and like sneaky. But the there's a lot of things. I mean, this Toldo is like endless on the amount of stuff a person can learn, not just about the Torah, but about life in general, about interpersonal relationships and like honoring your parents and relationship with God and good and evil in the world, like what the truth is just far more than I can ever possibly imagine to comprehend, let alone in like a couple days, and then convey it in less than an hour here. But the commentary says that when, like, Yaakov did not want to did not want to really go through with the deception of getting the blessing the way that he did. But his mother told him to do so, and he was very apprehensive. He said, what if I do this and my father, finds out and he cursed me instead of blessed me. And Rebecca, his mother, says, let the if it's so, let the curse fall on me, but listen to my voice and do what I say. And the if you read a good translation with commentary, you will and you have to read really really carefully, especially with commentary, because if you don't understand Hebrew, there's no way possible to understand what's being said accurately. But the way Yaakov speaks is like the most like ambiguous possible, in a way to not lie. Like when he comes into the room and Yitzhak, his father, asks, who's there? And he just says, it's I, your son. He didn't say it's Esav at first. But then he says, or no, he says it's oh, what is it? I think it's I, Father. And the translation will say is I, Father, comma, your son Esav. But the way that the Hebrew is written in the verse, it is it's I, Father, comma, your son, like your son is Esav, but I am me. I am, Yaakov, but he doesn't say Yaakov. The Torah is so amazing and so wonderful. This is a critical point in the world for the course of good versus evil. And I don't just mean like in the history of the world, like when whatever it was, however many, like 4,000 some years ago, five. I'm not sure how many. Like when this occurred, when this Torah portion occurred in history. I mean, like right now also. Like both points are both true. As every year as the Torah portion is read, it coincides to that point in creation, and the same things, the same like forces of good and evil, mercy and judgment are present. The most important thing to take from this Torah portion as well as last week's, I think, is just in the opposite way. Last week we saw, or I should say, the week before in Caesarea, we saw how Isaac's wife, Rebecca, could be a righteous woman that grew up in a house full of wicked people. Then this week we see how a wicked person can grow up in a house full of righteous people. The complete polar opposite. God gives us all free will. Everyone has a choice. Whether to be righteous or to be wicked, to seek the truth or to seek our own desires, which are really just lies. Really sneaky, deceptive lies, because everything feels so real when it's happening, so vivid and wonderful and empowering and pleasant, lustful. As soon as the moment is gone, so is whatever thing we were after just disappears. It's just like a lie. A lie does not last. Only the truth lasts. Truth has legs. It has two legs. Well, the lie has one leg and it falls over and eventually crumbles into dust. Shin, Kaf, Resh, Sheker is lies. And Hebrew, really all have one point that reaches the bottom line of the page to stand on. And they're all huddled right next to each other in the Hebrew, in the Aleph Bet. Except they're all mixed up. They're not in order. Showing one more clue of that they're lies, and also the amazing holiness and just infinite wonder that is present in the Hebrew script, and even more so with God's seal, with the truth, with Emet, Aleph Mem Taf. That is just like God. That's why it's a seal. The Aleph is there at the beginning. The Mem is there in the middle, right now, in this moment. God's right here. And the Taf is at the end of the Aleph Bet. And God will still be here after everything else is long gone. No matter how long he decides his creation to last, he will always exist longer than the creation. Longer than any creation. There's only the one true, lone, singular God of Israel that is complete and perfect and eternal. And then there is then there's creation. And to worship anything else is idol worship. Especially a wicked dude named Yeshu. If you don't wake up and see that soon, you will you'll suffer the fate of Esau. Especially if you heard this and you didn't look into what this crazy guy was saying on the internet. Because deep in your heart, somewhere, you know that it's true. Maybe your intellect can't grasp it, and your one half of your heart is violently repulsed by some things that I say. Well, the other half knows and wants the truth so badly, but you'll have to fight for it very hard to get it. That's the only way that the reward that God wants to give us is the only way we can possibly earn it is if it's hard. Because this is not a Cracker Jacks box of that the New Testament is. You don't just get to open it and there's a free toy inside. You say a few like magic words and presto, you get an eternity of good. The truth doesn't work like that. And the Torah is not a little booklet you find in a Cracker Jacks box. It's the instruction manual for life so that we may live. And if you're gonna understand it, you better go to the people of the book, the people that were put in charge of teaching the instruction manual to the world, not the Germans, the Japanese, or the Chinese, or Martians, or whatever Roman empires morphed into Catholic churches. Or anything else. Well, this has been that's been good for me. I hope these help someone. When I first started doing these streams, I just did whatever I felt like I was pushed to do. So I had no idea whatsoever what I was doing. And I felt as long as I just asked God for help, and whatever I had the motivation to do was the right thing, which is certainly not the case. That's like it can be like partially true, I guess. If a person does a really lot of hard work and learns a whole lot of Torah, but once that happens, you learn, like I did, that once you really start having any kind of effect with really helping people get closer to God, Satan gets let out of his let out of his cage and gets free rein to mess with what you're doing really bad and kick you down into the dirt for a long time, both physically, physically and mentally, and externally from other people, and just technological interference. All the above. Satan gets control of a lot of stuff in the world to keep people from raiding God's treasure room. Which is like an easily understandable equivalent of what it's like when someone gets another person to do teshuvah, to return to God, to get closer to God in a real way, like not some fluff, like, oh, I feel great, I feel connected to the universe, I think positive thoughts now. That's not real. That's not teshuvah at all. That is that's definitely a mitzvot of the Satan. That's that's like barely. I mean, it's a good feeling, sure, but like I said before, like most sensations are lies. Robert Rubin says that the who calls this world a world of lies. God calls this world a world of lies. Because that's what it is. This is the world of lies. The only thing that here that is any truth is things that we can do in the Torah that that we're permitted to do, that are good to do for ourselves and for other people. It's kind of hard to know what those things are for a non-Jew, for a Noahide, or for the Goyim. We just have to like muddle through it using a combination of our own common sense, which is rarely common these days, and mostly totally incorrect in accordance with the Torah. Mostly just learning Torah and trying to grab onto whatever we're allowed to do. Good place to start is to not be an idol worshiper. First, start by knowing who God is. Certainly not a man. Never was a man. Can't be a man. And God has no image and no likeness of an image. When it says Tselem Elohim in the Torah, man was made in the image of God. It doesn't mean like the physical image. It doesn't mean there's like a dude with a beard and sandals walking around in the clouds. It means the God's soul was made in the image of God. Or not God, man's soul. Man's soul was made in the image of God. Like it's an intangible thing that is has no physical matter. Just like God is, is not physical at all. So first start out by knowing who God is, and understanding that He makes everything constantly. He makes the world. He makes it every fraction of a second. It's like a continual process. That if God decides to stop one moment, everything just disappears, and we no longer exist. He doesn't have to destroy the world. That's just that's just to get our attention, basically. When God wants to talk to us. Next is don't lie, don't steal anything at all. Not time, certainly not money, not sleep. And not even ideas. Not unless it's not a patently rip-off thing, and it's for Kiruv, and it's for like an idea to help people get closer to God, and it's not, and it's done in a way that's not like a complete copycat. That's don't shed blood, both the blood of a man and the blood of a man within a man, which is his seed. Don't waste seed. Not in any way, shape, or form. Not by yourself, not with someone else. Any act that is an intimate act, whether alone or with another person, that can't under ideal conditions create a child, is wasting seed. And that's if a woman is barren, like we should learn that from the Torah portion. It's God's business whether she has a child or not. Our job as people is to work with what we have and try. If God wants us to have children, we will have children. Our job is to put everything where it needs to go in order for God to work the miracle, which human life, whether a woman is barren or not, is a miracle all by itself. Don't tear a limb from a living animal. And certainly don't eat it with his blood in it. Like if you're gonna eat bugs, don't eat them alive. Kill them first. And that applies to bugs that crawl on the land or crawl around with a weird mucus foot on the bottom of the ocean. And create courts of law. Although there's not too many people independently that can be tasked with creating a court of law, but people already created, the government, so we have to do our part to vote for the least horrible criminal and try to voice our opinion against things that are just wholly corrupt. At least a little bit. Just as a minimal effort for God to have some kind of vessel to create a miracle. Most important thing is we do teshuvah, so we have the merit to have a decent government and pray for it to work right. There's also a lot of other stuff in there. Don't speak lashon hara. Don't gossip. Don't tell bad things or good things about other people unless there's some very specific purpose that has a benefit to teach a lesson that applies to learning Torah. And even then, be very deliberate in the description that you give of the person and whatever you're talking about, and only relay just enough information to convey the lesson and no more. I'm not sure where honoring your parents fits into the 7 Noahide laws. Well, that's another one. If people took certain teachings like absolutely literal, at least Noahides, if they took the 7 laws absolutely literal, they would forget or leave out honoring your parents, which is super important. But don't forget God in the process. Honor your father and mother. I am God. That's what the verse says, not, I'm obviously not God. But God, that's what God says. Honor your parents, but don't forget who gave you these laws. So if your parents go against what I say, then remember the chain of command, so to speak. I've been wondering about how to rebuke, help people who are scorners, or people who at times may be on the verge of being judged as a drunk or kolashote. I read something in Proverbs 9. On the I think it's probably my evil inclination. It gives me some consolation, but my good inclination doesn't it doesn't console my heart. I'm not really sure how to apply it or interpret it. There's no commentary from Rashi on this, but it's Proverbs 9:7-12. He who corrects a scorner brings shame on himself, and he who rebukes a wicked man brings on himself his blemish. Do not reprove a scorner lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. On verse 9, instruction is usually translated from the word musar, which is, instruction is somewhat accurate, but it's like, imagine you had kind of like a very firm, like military dad. That's the kind of instruction musar is. It's like, this is the law, you're going to do it, and if not, you're going to face the consequences. That's like a close definition of musar for a goy, or at least from this goy. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Yirat Hashem Rashid Hokmah or something like that. Or maybe I got that backwards. When the knowledge of holy matters is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou art wise for thyself, and if thou scornest, thou shalt bear it. The woman folly is clamorous, she is simple and knows nothing. For she sits at the door of her house, on a seat in the high places of the city, calling out to passers-by who are going straight on their ways. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. As for him that lacks understanding, she says to him, stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knows not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. Rabbi Reuben says in the name of the sages that verses Proverbs 9:17 and 18, stolen waters are sweet and bread eaten in secret is pleasant, is referring to adultery. He even mentions numerous times in his Shurim that it's scientifically proven. He mentions that like a blind scientific study where they get a bunch of dudes to look at two women that are twins, and one's married and one's single, and they get them to basically commit sins in their mind, but for the purpose of the study, they say, which woman do you find more attractive? Like 90% of the time, the guys always pick the married woman. Nothing new under the sun, which is another one of King Solomon, Shlomo Melech's phrases of wisdom, which he wrote Proverbs, proving again that the Torah is true over and over again. But he knows not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. Sheol is one of the words in the Tanakh and the Torah that is like used for Gehinnom, used for hell. Anyone that is entrapped by the adulterous woman, or vice versa, if they don't do serious teshuvah, the depths of Sheol will be their eternal resting place. Hopefully we can all do full and complete teshuvah. I'm gonna get going, it's cold and I need to go to sleep. Now I realize that now that these have had more effect, I have to struggle and fight for the energy and time and whatnot, and concentration and focus to do these, even though it appears like everyone ran away once the real truth came out. Or not everyone, but you know, 9 out of 10. It was a slow process, though, to get to the real truth and to scare everyone away. Everyone would rather talk about being afraid of fake wars and fake viruses and stupid conspiracies and anything else other than the fact that God is in charge of everything. It's only going to get worse unless we wake up and pay attention to what he says in his book that he gave us, or at least that he gave his nation that we get to read and learn from. Thank God. Without it, we'd be so doomed now and forever. We all have the merit to see the truth as much as that is humanly possible in this world. May God please grant us all the strength and all the assistance that we need and that we want. Hopefully that's for us all to see the truth and do teshuva. But I know I'm probably living in a fantasy land, but I'm not going to stop praying for it now. Please, God, please grant us all the strength to overpower and outsmart the Yetzirah and to pass the test you place before us and to overcome our desire for all that is not good for the body and the soul.